Hi there, welcome. This is Rob. I'm back with the Beast. The 100-hour MGB GT restoration. My goal being to get this car back in a solid driving status, including hopefully a decent paint job and 100 hours of work. Today I'm talking mostly about the brakes. I'm going to show you the brakes. That's what I'm going to be working on here in a minute. Luckily the weather is cleared. We've had all kinds of storms blowing through, and it's just beautiful now. So here in East Tennessee. So hopefully we're going to get back to having some decent weather to work on. Essentially what I found with my initial observations or digging into this car, the front brake rotors are both fairly new. You can see the other one a little better because I have the caliper off, but these calipers, I spec'd them out, or the brake rotors rather, I spec'd them out, and they haven't been turned. They're nice and straight. They seem to be true. The brake pads are almost new. They were decent, made in England set of pads. You can see they've also put the new pins in there, the previous owner. So as far as that goes, those are in pretty good shape. Unfortunately, both the front brake calipers have been sticking. The problem being the hydraulics in there are bad. Also, the brake hoses, there's no indication that they're themselves are bad, but you can see I'm not really trusting with the rust that's on this car. The brake lines, the offside, the passenger side, has already been changed very poorly, and I'll show you that in a second. But essentially, one of the problems with these is the fabric-coated brake lines are designed to keep the brake line from swelling and reduces the pedal pressure. Unfortunately, as these cars age, and since they're about 40 or more years old, a lot of them, this one is, I guess, 38 years old. So what happens is the rubber inside swells up, but it has nowhere to go because of that fabric outer side. So when you actually generate enough pressure with the master cylinder to be able to push the hydraulic brake fluid through, but it can't equalize and go back because there's not near enough pressure, just residual left over for it to equalize. So a lot of times that's the cause of the brakes to stick. Another thing I learned over the years is with these cars is the rear wheel cylinders are really prone to sticking because the cars often get set a long time and haven't been driven. So the moisture inside the system just freezes them up. So these are actually free. The shoes are in decent shape, and the hardware and everything is okay, but they're badly out of adjustment. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to take care of that, but essentially I'm not going to really mess with the rear brakes until I change the rear spacers in the center of the differential, and I've also got new wheel bearings for the back, and I'm going to do that at the same time so I don't waste my labor. But essentially, another problem actually is the brake lights are on all the time. Let me just show you real quick. You can see I left the ignition on to show you this. The brake lights are on, but obviously I'm not in there pushing the brakes. And the way they work, basically, is there's a contact switch on the front of the brake box. That's right here. That's just a teeny little contact switch. So these are not actually activated on pressure. It's just when the pedal moves. Now, when the pedal moves, it moves away, obviously, towards the master cylinder. It's on a pivot. And when it moves away from this switch, the brake lights come on. But with it in place, it shouldn't move. Unfortunately, this was just left just kind of loose. And a second ago, I was checking to make sure that they were coming off. And so when I push it here, I can't quite. Yeah, I can barely see it through the windshield. But the brake light goes off. But that right there is just enough for them to come back on. So I'll have to fix that. But I'm probably going to go ahead and since I won't have to flush the system and change the brake fluid again, I'm going to go ahead and just rebuild that master cylinder, which actually looks relatively new. I don't think it's the original. But basically, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and change the brake lines. One of the problems I had is I went ahead and took the passenger side brake caliper off. Well, the problem was it was so frozen that I was unable to get the pistons out. So one of the tricks I'm going to hopefully show you here is just to take the brake caliper loose, or you could just take the pads out, and then when you press the brakes, hopefully the pistons are going to pop right out. And once I get them about halfway out, then I'll be able to get some leverage on them. Another thing I think I showed earlier in another video, is the previous owner had changed the offside, this passenger side brake line. You can see just how poorly fitted it is. It's really dangling dangerously, just waiting to catch a road object, or with the suspension moving, it could chafe against the chassis, or catch another, some kind of other suspension part and get ripped off. And since about 80% of your brakes come from the front, that would definitely not be a fun thing to do. The front suspension, you can see it's really gunked up. I think the previous owner, or the previous owners, if I can get some light in here, had done a pretty good job over the years. You can see just how much grease has been pushed through the front suspension. The front suspension actually doesn't seem to have any clunks, and it's nice and free. A lot of times the king pins in these get really unlubricated, and it's metal on metal, and the cars get really hard to steer. But this car's really easy to steer, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to, at least for the preliminary rebuild, I'm not going to necessarily rebuild the kingpins. I'm just going to change the upper and lower bushings and the rubber, and I think that's going to suffice. But again, you can just see how much just caked on gunk is on here. The front steering, gator boots, there you can see that. They're both completely wrecked. So those will be changed, and those are really easy. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and do the front tie rod, which isn't too bad either. So since I'm here, why not? So one of the things also I'm going to do is the pressure washer. My mom is a cleaning fanatic. She lives next door, and this is her pressure washer, which she uses about once every month at least, just to redo the driveway. So I have access to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and really tackle the front suspension and get as much of this gunk off as I can. And I'm also going to do the bottom side of the car, and I'm also going to go ahead and do the floorboards, which I don't think I've ever used a pressure washer on the inside of a car, but this is the first time for everything. And I also got a little visit from my neighborhood UPS man. So here's my new stuff that I just ordered. British Parts Northwest is where this stuff came from. Really affordable. There's the steering boots. You can see these are poly upper and lower front suspension control arm pieces. These are new reverse lights, door handle, front tie rods. Got a pair of rear wheel bearings and seals. New rear wheel cylinders for the back. And also went ahead and ordered a new belt just as a spare. And I thought it was really cool. They sent me some candy, so that's cool. And the only other thing that's not related to the suspension, as you can see, these are AE brand tappets. And you're saying, well, I thought the car ran good. What do you need tappets for? Well, I went ahead and ordered those because part 2 of this, after I get the car basically restored to stock condition, will be performance modifications. And I'll just show you one of the toys that I'm going to put on there. Some debated whether these cams are too good for the lifters, but that's why I went ahead and got the AE brand. I think I'll be able to get them to work. These are nice cams. It's a nice street cam. So let's see if I can. There's also one other thing. As long as the brake lines were old and shot, these are some new ones I ordered. I got these from, I think it's MexSpec in England. Had them shipped over. They're really cheap. Unfortunately, shipping kind of doubles the price of them, but I think they were about $50 on eBay, and they look really nice. The 2 were for the front brake calipers, and then the other shorter one, that basically is where the brake line attaches to the rear axle. So hopefully everything's going to be sorted out, and that's kind of it for today. And I'm gonna see if I can get in there and pop these calipers off using my little trick. Thanks. See you later.